Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking all about every single piece of gear that I used on the Florida trail this year. What worked, what didn't, what I switched out on trail, what I loved, all that type stuff. I will be making a separate video talking all about clothing that I wore on trail, so that would include like rain gear, shoes, things like that. I feel like that just deserves its own video, so be looking out for that in the next couple of weeks. I do have a lighter pack website, which is linked in my description, and there you'll be able to find every single piece of gear that I used on trail. There'll be a description and a link that will take you straight to the product for wherever I bought it. And so if you are interested in doing a little bit more research or purchasing any of the gear that I talk about today, that's where you can find it. I've also created an Amazon storefront and linked every single item that I used on trail that you can buy on Amazon. So definitely check that out as well. And thank you guys so much for the continued support of this channel. Let's get into the gear. First, let's talk about my backpack. So of course I used a waymark. Only used waymarks on my through hikes and they've never let me down. This backpack right here has 1,500 miles on it and it looks brand new. So this is the 40-liter Thru framed backpack. They actually don't have this exact same one on their website right now because they update their backpacks every year, but you can get one that's pretty similar. They have customizable options. I went with this mesh outside pocket this time. My other waymark has a different material on the outside, but I really liked the idea of this kind of outside pocket because it allows for airflow. And of course on the Florida trail, I was wet a ton. My feet were wet, my clothes got wet, all of the things. And so I was able to like shove socks and things in here and let them dry throughout the day. And that airflow really helped to keep things dry and not get musty and stinky and gross. A few features that I really like about the pack is, of course, that pocket. I added 2 hip belt pockets, so at checkout when you purchase a backpack like this, you can add on the hip belts. I would keep my GoPro in this one, and then I would keep headlamps, snacks, sunscreen, and stuff in this other one. This is a framed pack. And it was actually the pack that I brought out on the PCT, but I only got 350 miles out of it. So I figured that I needed to get more miles out of this backpack. I do think it was a little bit of an overkill for the Florida trail, however, because I was just trying to shed off of my base weight. So at the end of the trail, like it was always rolled all the way down. I could have gone with a smaller pack. And plus my pack wasn't super heavy. So I just prefer a frameless backpack, but the framing is super simple. Let me just kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. There's just 2 metal rods in the back. And I actually started the trail. I took the metal rods out to make it a frameless pack. And at the beginning of the trail, the pack was riding a little heavy on my shoulders. And so then I did have my mom send out the 2 metal framings and it carried really great. I also like the 2 side pockets. They're huge. I could fit like 3 water bottles in here if I wanted to. There's one on either side. Put my trekking poles here on the outside. There's little loops to situate your trekking poles here. I also like how there's the padding here on the back. So that kind of provided some support and comfort when I was carrying my pack. On the shoulders here, I have this Gossamer Gear phone holder. This is the large size. This thing's been with me since the beginning of times. It's old, but works really well. I like how there's padding in the pocket because I just throw my gear around and it helps to protect my phone. On this side, I have a water bottle holder that has also been with me since the beginning of time, and it's got a bunch of holes in it. I need to replace it, but it has like 4,000 miles on it. I got this off an Etsy site, Justin's UL. This is where I carried my umbrella. But yeah, overall, love this pack. Really can't go wrong with Waymark packs. I've been repping them since the Appalachian Trail, and I just think they make very quality products and everything's always been super comfortable. So make sure you guys check that out if you're in the market for a lightweight pack. Oh, and inside my backpack, I used a pack liner. So this is a Zpacks Dyneema pack liner. in the small size, and this just helps to keep all of your gear dry when it rains, and it's Dyneema, so it's really strong. In the past, I've just used the plastic bag liners, and sometimes those can spring holes and you can't see them until it rains and your gear ends up wet. I think that's a good option, but I decided to upgrade to this because, again, I knew Florida was going to be super wet, and it just kind of gave me peace of mind. I really liked this dry sack, and I'm definitely going to be using it in the trails to come. All right, next I'll talk about my tent. Just all the way. Oh boy. I used a Durston X-Mid Pro 2 tent on the Florida Trail. I made a few videos about this tent on my channel, and I'll link those in the description below if you want a very detailed review of this tent. In a nutshell, I loved it. It is a single wall tent, and it just worked really well for me. It's super spacious. It's really easy to set up. As far as condensation, you know, Florida's a very wet, humid climate, so I did have some condensation, but the tent dries so fast. Most of the days I would carry a washcloth, wake up in the morning, kind of around my tent to get some water droplets off, and then I would just put it in the sack, and for our lunch I would just set the tent out, and less than 10 minutes the whole thing would be just dry and crispy and wonderful. That's what I used for my tent. I did start out with a ground sheet using this Tyvek, but I quickly realized that I didn't really need that for the tent, and Durston actually says on the website that you don't need a ground sheet because the floor of the tent is strong enough to withstand abrasions. So I got rid of my ground sheet. Typically I would still carry the ground sheet if I thought there was maybe an opportunity to cowboy camp, but there was no cowboy camping in Florida. So I sent that sucker home, and I never had an issue with the bottom of my tent ever. Less weight, less things to carry. We love that. To set up my tent, you need 2 trekking poles. These are the trekking poles I use. They're Black Diamond Alpine carbon fiber trekking poles. I usually would only walk with 1 trekking pole or just none. I didn't really use trekking poles that often in Florida. But these are good poles. I got these on the Appalachian Trail, and they've lasted, you know, many a mile. So they're pretty lightweight, and yeah, that's what I used for my trekking poles. I also carried 6 stakes. I added these to my cart when I ordered the Durston, and this one's a little warped, but super lightweight tent. Stakes, mostly only used 4 tent stakes, as that's all you need to set up the tent, which is like my favorite feature about the X-Mid Pro 2. But yeah, both of these together, it's just around 20 ounces, so it weighs nothing. You just can't really beat that tent. Next, I'll talk about my sleeping bag. I gotta grab it. I used a Enlightened Equipment Revelation 20-degree bag. 100% overkill. I did not need that warm of a sleeping bag for the Florida Trail. Most of the nights, I just kind of slept on top of the bag. But there were some nights where it gets cold, and that's where you have to be really careful on the Florida Trail, because a lot of people suffer from hypothermia because it can get cold and it can get below freezing. And even when the temperature is just kind of around freezing, the climate is so wet and the air is so wet, it's easier to become hypothermic. And there's been people that have died on the trail because they think that they don't need warm things, but the weather can snap like that. And we did have a few pretty cold nights, and luckily I think we were at a church hostel, so we didn't even sleep outside. And that's the good thing about the Florida Trail, is most of it is around somewhere where you can maybe get a hotel and bail yourself out. But if I had to do it again, I would probably carry a 30-degree sleeping bag. As far as a sleeping pad, I started out with this Nemo Tensor inflatable sleeping pad. And I think I jinxed myself with these inflatable sleeping pads, because on the Appalachian Trail, I had a Nemo Tensor and it lasted me the entire trail. I never had a hole, never had a problem with it. And I think I mentioned that in one of my gear videos. And then I got on the PCT and I had 2 of these spring a hole. And then this one sprung a hole on the Florida Trail, and I slept on the ground for a good few weeks. Unfortunately, I slept on the ground because my air mattress has a hole. I have no idea how that happened, but it has a hole, so I'll have to get that figured out when we get into town. And I got tired of it. I got fed up. I kept patching holes. New ones kept coming up. I also used this 1/8 inch foam pad. So I put this under my mattress at night to help prevent anything piercing the mattress. Apparently that didn't work. I would also use this as a sit pad whenever we would stop places, and it weighs nothing. It's just this very thin little piece of foam fabric. So I got this off of Laurel Designs, and I paired it with this. And so I decided to switch to a closed cell foam pad. This is the Nemo Tensor in the short version. Each one of these little squares here weigh an ounce, so that's why I went with the short version. I'm 5'7", so the short version, it kind of went up to down to my knees, and I feel like that's really all I needed as far as like a cloth. I would just put my feet on my bag or like some clothes or something, and this took a while to get used to. I always told myself, oh, I'll never be able to sleep on one of those, but I was so fed up with that inflatable pad. I was like, I'm gonna teach myself how to sleep on this. And how I did that is just, I didn't get rid of it when I got uncomfortable. There were a couple nights where I didn't get the best night's sleep. I don't know if that pad's working for me, because like I am just not really sleeping good. I'm gonna give it a couple more nights. But after, you know, a few nights and of not getting sleep and a few days of 20 miles, I was tired, and I could have slept on a dang rock. My body just learned how to adjust to this, and now I prefer it. I sleep so good. I feel like my back realigns at night because I've learned to sleep on my back. You have to be a little bit more careful about where you set your tent up when you use one of these pads. Grass is the best. Oh my gosh, a little pack of leaves, sand, which there was a lot of that on the Florida Trail. So I slept pretty good. It took me about a month to get used to this, but now I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever go back to the inflatable just because this is comfortable and it's so lightweight. And I also doubled using this as a sit pad, so when we stop for lunch or a break or whatever, you can just easily set this up and sit down. So yeah, I used 2 different pillows. They're the same thing, just different sizes. So when I had the inflatable pad and the 1/8 inch foam pad, I used the regular sized pillow. This is super lightweight. I don't even remember it. I think it's like 2 ounces or something. But when I switched to the closed cell foam pad, the non-inflatable, I was at REI, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a little bit more comfort with the pillow. So I switched up to the large size. Here is the difference in sizes. Large, regular. I think it added like an ounce to my base weight, but the pillow is much bigger. It's much more comfortable in my opinion, and it sits a little bit thicker, so I knew that I didn't want to be sleeping like this. So this pillow upgrade, I think even if I went back to the inflatable pad, I would keep the large pillow because it's just super comfortable. This is a Sea to Summit Eros pillow, and it's got this really nice material where you lay your face, and I've always really liked the Sea to Summit pillows, so yeah. Right, next let's talk about electronics. I'm filming with my iPhone 14 Pro, which is half of what I use to video on trail. I also used my GoPro Hero 10 for, oh, never mind, my GoPro Hero 11. It's an 11. I like doing the phone and the GoPro because the GoPro is waterproof. So if it's raining or wet outside or we get to a swimming hole, I can just take this in the water with me or record while it is raining and I don't have to worry about it. These things are also action cameras, so I can drop it or whatever and it will hold up. So if one of my cameras fails, hopefully the other one will still be alive. And then for the GoPro, this is the tripod that I used for it. It's a Pedco UltraPod tripod. This thing weighs like maybe an ounce, and I really like it because I use it, of course, as a tripod, or I would use this little Velcro piece to wrap around a tree sometimes to get certain shots. So it's very versatile. The GoPro just screws on the top like this, folded it up like this, and just put it in my side pocket. So that's my little setup there. So this is my little electronics bag. Again, this bag's been with me since the beginning of time. It's all duct taped. It's a Zpacks Dyneema bag, and it's where I keep all of my cords and my battery bank. So I have quite a few different cords, iPhone cord, USB-C, USB-A. This is my micro SD adapter. So this is how I get all of my pictures and videos from the GoPro onto my phone to edit. So this just plugs into the bottom of the phone, and then I stick the micro SD into there, and it all transfers over. This is the Apple version of this piece of equipment. I bought an off-brand one off of Amazon for the Appalachian Trail, and it was really funky. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it didn't. And I went ahead and just paid the extra like $15 for the Apple one, and I've never had a problem with it. So y'all know, my Apple users out there, y'all know how they be doing us like that. And then in this little plastic bag, I keep these little moisture absorbers. Anytime they come in like a shoes or whatever, I save them and just use them in my electronics bag. So I kind of have like a double waterproof situation. I have the Dyneema and then the plastic bag. So also in this plastic bag, I keep, these are GoPro extra screen protectors. So I buy like the little tempered glass to put over the camera lens, because I do drop the GoPro and it does crack, and then it makes flares in the video. So I keep some extra screens in here. And then I also normally keep extra SD cards. Oh, yep, here it is. So these are the SD cards that I use for the GoPro. And I bought these little plastic cases on Amazon. They should be linked in my store, but that also keeps and protects that little SD card, and it just lives in there. So I kept a few extra ones on trail with me. For my battery bank, I went with a Nitecore Carbo 20,000 battery bank. And this is the lightest battery bank on the market, and that's why I shelled out a ridiculous amount of cash for it. And it worked pretty well for me. I think this thing is 10 ounces. It's pretty revolutionary. It's got one USB-A and one USB-C port, so I was able to keep my phone and my GoPro charged. And I would say this thing lasted for like 3.5 days. I'd charge my phone every night, and I typically wouldn't ever charge my GoPro because I brought extra GoPro batteries. So this was solely used to charge my phone, and you know what? It did pretty well. I did realize though that if I left my phone plugged in overnight, it would just drain this battery bank. So I started just plugging my phone in at night, eating my dinner, doing my nighttime chores, and then before I went to sleep, put my phone on airplane mode, unplugged it, and left it unplugged until I woke up in the morning and plugged my phone back in and had it charge all morning, and then unplugged it as I went. So that did help keep the battery bank from depleting as fast, but I did never really have a fully charged phone doing it that way. I did notice that was kind of like the downside to this battery bank. I feel like the Anchors in the past had some sort of technology where it would stop pulling the power out, but I don't know. Did bring a couple extra GoPro batteries. So these are the Enduro GoPro batteries. The other regular batteries, which I don't even know if they sell anymore, there were the blue batteries, but they came out with these batteries that are supposed to have extra power in them. And I was a little skeptical because I've been a GoPro user for decades, and the battery life has always been the Achilles heel of these cameras. But these actually, this little battery will last me days and days. They've really upgraded their battery, and it also does a lot better in cooler temperatures, because the other batteries, as soon as it got cold, that battery was gone. But this one, it does hold up a little bit better. So if you have a GoPro and you don't have these type of batteries, you need to get some. My last electronic I'll talk about is my Garmin InReach Mini. This is my satellite phone, And if you don't have any service on trail, you can use this to send out texts. It also has an SOS button for emergencies. If you click it, then here comes the helicopters to save your life. Didn't need this very much on the Florida Trail because you mostly always have service out there because you're just by some town all the time. But we did not have service in Big Cypress, and I got separated from all my people and hiked alone for an entire day, and I was very comforted in the fact that I knew I had this. You do have to pay a subscription for it, but I think the cheapest plan is like $15, which is what I pay for. It allows you to send texts, get weather updates, and use the SOS button. So I highly recommend getting one of these. And I felt like I didn't really have to carry it on the Florida Trail, but after experiencing some things I've experienced out in the backcountry, I'll always carry this for peace of mind. As for my kitchen setup, I started out using a stove. I ended up sending that home. While I did have it, I used this 700 milliliter TOAKS pot. And then for my stove, I used this little BRS stove that just screws on to some gas. I don't know. The stove was nice at first. However, you quickly realize that there's not a lot of places to resupply that will have like backpacking meals, which is typically what I eat with a stove. And also, there's not very many places that sell the tiny little gas canisters in Florida. I just decided to send the thing home. Plus, you are in town like every day. You can basically get a hot meal in town nearly every single day on trail. And as long as I have one hot meal, I'm happy. I don't need a hot meal for every meal. So I ended up just sending my stove home, and I didn't even cold soak. I just bought items that didn't need to be cooked and ate those when I wasn't eating at a restaurant already. The couple people that I hiked with, they kept their stove the whole time, and they were able to find the gas canisters through Trail Angels and different resources like that on trail. The Trail Angels are amazing on the Florida Trail, so they help out hikers a lot in that area. And then instead of backpacking meals, of course, they could just do like North Sides and things like that, which are plentiful because Dollar General is king in Florida. Also in my kitchen setup, I have my TOAKS long handle spoon, which is major key. You can basically use a spoon for anything. This is what I use for my food bag. This is a Granite Gear 12 liter, I think it's 12 liter, 16 liter food bag. Zips up, I like it. For my water filter, I use the regular sized Sawyer Squeeze. I did start out with a 2 liter CNOC bag, but honestly, all of the water that you drink at the beginning of the trail, if you start going no-bo, like along the canals and stuff, it's cached water, so you don't technically have to filter it. What I ended up doing is just using 2 smart water bottles, and I would attach this to one of the smart water bottles and then filter it through the smart water bottle. I use this on the Appalachian Trail, and if I were to do that trail again, I would probably take the CNOC, but I just felt like it wasn't really worth it on the Florida Trail just for like what water sources that we came upon. It was just easier to use the smart water bottle. Next, I'll talk about all of my first aid / toiletries kit. Everybody always makes fun of me because I keep everything in this big old 2-gallon Ziploc bag. I could go down to a 1 gallon because, I mean, this is really all that's in there. But I like my big bag. I like the 2-gallon Ziploc bags. And let's see what we got in here. I can't see without glasses or contacts. So, fortunately, I'm always going to have to carry a little bit extra weight for that. I just have this hard glasses holder. These are my little cheapy Walmart glasses that I always carry on trail with me. I have contact solution. I do sell a 1 ounce contact solution, but I found that kind of can go pretty fast, and sometimes it's hard to find contact solution, especially in rural areas. It can be a hit or miss. If you go to a gas station, like, they may or may not have contact solution. and you need that. So this lasts a little bit longer. This is the 4-ounce bottle. I've just started carrying that and sucking it up. I mean, oh no, 3 more ounces. And it just kind of gives me peace of mind, because there's nothing worse than needing contact solution and not having it. And then in this little bag, I have my contact case, toothbrush, toothpaste. I always carry floss with me on trail. And then this is my antibiotic cream that I have for this weird rash that I sometimes get on my face. I also carry this CeraVe. It's like a moisturizing lotion, but it also has sunscreen in it. And let me tell y'all, you're gonna want some sunscreen for the Florida Trail, because that sun is harsh and it's unforgiving. And I got really burned at the beginning, and I was like, yeah, that's not happening again, because it's... And then I had to carry aloe vera with me everywhere because I was just like in pain. But this stuff works really well. I like it. I have a lot of hair, obviously, so I have to carry a brush. I found this one on Amazon. It's a little bamboo brush, and this thing doesn't even weigh an ounce. So this is a very good option for all my girls out there with hair, or my guys out there with hair, you know, anybody with hair. This is a good brush. Wrapped a couple extra ponytail holders on that. This is my first aid kit. So it's funny because when I first started through hiking, I didn't really know what to put in my first aid kit. So I ended up carrying all this stuff I never needed. Let me tell y'all, you only need a few things in here. One is Leukotape. It can pretty much fix anything. What I do is I buy a roll of the Leukotape, and I take some parchment paper and just cut them into little strips and carry the strips with me. I like to carry some KT tape. This stuff is good if you like twist an ankle or tweak a knee. You can wrap it up, but it also, you can tape up gear with this stuff as well. I also carry extra contacts in here, ibuprofen, Tylenol, Benadryl, Allegra-D. I will say, if you have allergies, the Florida Trail starts becoming spring in like February there. My allergies were just acting crazy. So I had Benadryl, Allegra-D, Flonase. I had like all the allergy medicines on deck because there were a few weeks there where I was just like dying. I always carry a pair of tweezers, a pair of toenail clippers, a little mirror. And that's pretty much all I have in my first aid kit. Now, for a while, I was getting blisters really bad, and I would carry the hydrocolloid Band-Aids with me to put on my blisters to soak out all the liquid. And then I would put the hydrocolloid Band-Aid on overnight, and if the blister was really bad, I'd keep it on and Leukotape over it, and that provided a little bit of cushion for my blister throughout the day and ended up working pretty well for me. And then I always carry some earplugs with me as well. And that is pretty much all I have in this bag. Okay, next I'll talk about just some miscellaneous items that, you know, every backpacker has. Well, headlamp, I use the Nightcore NU something or another. This thing's super light, works really well. Favorite headlamp ever. It is a rechargeable headlamp, which I prefer. I feel like the battery powered ones, they just go out so fast and you're always carrying extra batteries. Made sure to charge it every few days just because I didn't want to be without light, but it lasts a pretty long time. One item I always carry is a pee bottle, and I would pee in my tent in this at night. It's just a Nalgene wide mouth, soft bottle. Put this on the outside of my pack. Yeah, ladies, you need this. This is my trowel. It's the Deuce of Spades. The number 2 weighs 0.59 ounces. So this is a good option, and you can get it on Amazon. This is my pee rag. Ladies, you also need this if you don't have one. It's antimicrobial. Instead of every time you pee pulling out some toilet paper, you can just use this, and I would wash it off every couple of days, and you can just hang it on your pack like this. It dries super fast. An umbrella. I was kind of against umbrellas when I started the trail. I don't need an umbrella, that's extra weight. Loving it already. You need an umbrella. This thing is awesome. My aunt and uncle got me this for Christmas. I got it off Amazon, and this thing was a lifesaver. Like, so many parts of the trail, you're just completely exposed, and this helped me to stay cooler and not sunburned, and it was just so nice to have so many different times. I like how this one collapsed down. I did find that after it kept getting wet that the collapsing part didn't work as well, but I think a little WD-40 on it and it'll be working. And I would keep this kind of in the front of my backpack like this because I would use it pretty much every single day. Highly recommend an umbrella if you decide to do the Florida Trail. Goggles. I got these at Alexander Springs and they were way too expensive. They were just very super crappy goggles, but they were so nice to have because there's a lot of swimming opportunities in Florida, and I love just like looking down in the water and seeing everything. So I carried these with me pretty much the whole trail after that and used them quite a bit. So get some goggles, you're gonna want them because there's a lot of really cool swimming holes. So on the Florida Trail, if you guys watched, you saw there was a lot of roadwalks. There's just a lot of roadwalks. That's just how it is. So I bought these little guys from REI. Oh no, I think this one. Okay, yeah. And I put them on the back of my pack, and they would especially help at night for cars to kind of see somebody off on the side. These were kind of like our safety precaution. They magnetize like this, so you can just like clip them on to any part of your backpack. And I really felt good about having these, just to know that hopefully the car would see me. We all had them, and recommend if you're gonna do the Florida Trail and do the road walking to get some sort of flashing light so that cars can see you. This bag would always go in that back pocket of my backpack, and in here I would always carry 1 ounce, or this is 2 ounces of Dr. Bronner's soap. I use this every single day. I would always rinse my hands off before taking my contacts out at night. I would give myself little bird baths with this stuff. I always need my little soap on backpacking trips. This stuff I use for chafing. It's squirrel nut butter. Blueberry actually gifted me this at Billy Goat Day, and it lasted me the whole trail. Like, there's still a bunch in there. But this stuff, you're not gonna chafe at all with this, and we all chafed on the Florida Trail. That's just part of it because it's so wet and humid out there. So get you some of this. It's really good stuff. They also have it in like a little deodorant stick that you can just rub on yourself, and that's really nice too. Also in this bag, I carried a little travel size Gold Bond powder, and that was really nice. I would just like bathe in that at night because I hate going to bed sticky, and having that powder kind of helped me feel not as sticky, and that can also help with chafing and things like that, drying stuff out and feet and all that stuff. Some piece of gear you're gonna make sure that you want on the Florida Trail is sunglasses. Protect your eyes because, like I said, you are exposed a lot of the time in the sun, and it can get really harsh. And I got these ones at Publix. Another piece of gear that I always carry on through hikes is some sort of essential oils. I like lavender, tea tree, and patchouli. It helps me not smell myself, and like lavender I'll put on my pillow at night. It'll help me kind of calm down. The tea tree is really good for itchy bug bites, and then also mosquitoes and gnats and stuff. They don't like the smell of it, so instead of using bug spray, I would use that instead. As I'm editing this video, I realized that I forgot to mention, in addition to the essential oils, I also carried incense, and that was really nice to use on breaks when the bugs got really bad. And then at camp, I would just light one of those incense, and the bugs don't like the smell of the smoke. And if you get like a lavender or a lemony citronella type scent, they really will just go away. A bunch of us in my trail family started carrying the incense, and it worked so well. And honestly, I don't think I'll hike another trail without some incense. You can get the incense sticks at Walmart, head shops. They're actually pretty easy to find, so definitely try that on your next trip. One of the most asked about pieces of gear on my channel has got to be my neck knife. I just wear this around my neck every day on trail, and it helps to cut foods, scare the Florida mans away. This is an MT Knives Genesis, I believe, XHP. I love this knife. I take it with me everywhere. I think it's just good to have a knife on trail. And then also I use a Fitbit Inspire as my little watch. It keeps up with my steps, my heart rate, calories. So I always kind of like to have those stats. All right, y'all, that's gonna do it for today's episode, talking all about the gear that I use on the Florida trail. Let me know in the comments if there's any gear that you have questions about, or if there's anything that you think you might want to try for yourself, or anything that I forgot. I think I covered everything. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Look out for that clothing video, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.